Well, today we got an episode of the non-drummer mindset. I talked to non-drummer Danny Iannucci. He's a bassist, but the spoiler is he's actually a killer on the drums too. So I don't know if you've gotten to hear that before, but he played on this kit a little bit. I was just, surprised, not surprised. He's a very talented musician. Danny's the kind of artist that is what happens when Kiss is your first concert ever. I don't know what that means, but it makes sense if you get to know Danny. We cover a lot of things together. We talk about the special relationship of the bassist and the drummer, and how one of the main jobs together is holding the pocket together to provide this canvas for other folks to play. But also he talks a little bit about how drummers can best support bassists when it's their turn to shine, their turn to have a solo. We talk about the differences in playing different venues, whether it's club, festivals, or orchestral music. We talk about differences in the upright versus the electronic or the electric bass. And I think there's a real key there in understanding that when you're a drummer and just knowing the instruments that your bandmates are playing with. It's important to understand those nuances and things and kind of what they're dealing with. We also have a really great conversation about art acceptance. We talk about the concepts of just the openness versus gatekeeping, and then also fundamentalism. And then we also talk a good deal about feedback and criticism and how to communicate, how bandmates can communicate with each other on stage. I love talking to Danny. If you get a chance, you got to go check out Brushfire Stankgrass. Otherwise, you can see him every Monday with Caromia and Company at 5 Walnut Wine Bar in downtown Asheville. Or you can catch him doing some jazz tunes at the Foundry Hotel, also downtown Asheville, on Saturdays. So stick around for this one. It's a great talk, and take care. Danny, thanks so much for coming over.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah, chat drums and kind of music in general, but yeah. So you were just playing a little bit ago, and you've been playing a while.
Definitely,
you're no stranger to the kit.
Not at all. Yeah, I'm not as practiced as I once was, but looking to change that soon.
Yeah,
and even that 5 minutes, you start to be like, oh yeah, that's right.
Nice. But you're a bass player. Primarily.
Big time. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, can you give me like a little bit of background about music for you and how it started?
Sure. Well, if I go back, I grew up in Raleigh. Both my parents were into music.
Okay.
Pretty specific genres, though. My dad was a hair metal fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he was one of the Kiss fanatics.
Okay.
We had like a room full of paraphernalia and stuff, Kiss pinball machine, and
nice.
My first 2 concerts were Kiss.
Oh, wow. How old were you?
I must have been 9 or 10.
Oh, like perfect, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my mom was Fleetwood, the Eagles,
oh, yeah. Sure.
all that kind of stuff, Boston, Chicago. And
really like attuned to the tone.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Records, vinyl collection, big one that we used to listen to. So I played soccer when I was real young. And I still do, but that was kind of my focus. Mm-hmm. My mom was a high-level soccer player. And as I got into my late single digits, I definitely started to get tired of the kind of the school that they were teaching us and just the negative reinforcement and stuff. So I started to really listen to music. My brother around that time got a guitar. And it was only natural that I got a bass, I guess, was kind of what we decided. So I went to Guitar Center and got a Fender Squire, with the little kit, with a little amp and the strap and the cable. And that was kind of that. And that was about, I guess, 8 years old or so.
Okay.
Very, very, very hobby for a couple years. Wanted to play, but it wasn't my focus. Sometime around probably 11 or so, I quit soccer. And I watched a Metallica Behind the Music one night upstairs, and Cliff Burton dying in that bus accident. And for some reason, was all of a sudden heavily inspired to play.
Wow.
And that was that. then I started focusing on it.
Okay.
And joined bands. Definitely could tell that I had a knack for it, like playing with other kids my age and like quickly being able to pick stuff up, and it was good. Loved it. Became a focus. The whole thing where my dad was like, "You can't do that. You got to work." Thing happened, and then high school played all through metal bands. I would say I was kind of a musical elitist back then.
Yeah.
I didn't really have big ears yet.
Right.
You know, we made fun of genres and
Sure.
very focused on our black metal.
Yeah.
And our speed metal.
For sure. Yeah, I've been there.
You know how it goes.
Yeah, you kind of define yourself by what you don't like in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? And it's all just a fear of the emotional reaction that you get from it, I think, really.
And you're looking for like an identity too.
Yeah, right.
So like, this is my crew. This is where I belong.
Right.
Nothing else matters. Sorry.
Oh, Metallica crew,
Yeah.
let's go. It's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, totally. I've been there. I think we all have.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
But, and you had said that, was it school beforehand or some of the institutional learning that you were doing was just not working out for you? Did you say that?
That was for soccer.
Oh, for soccer.
That was for soccer.
So
yeah,
it was more of that.
That was that's a whole nother podcast.
Got it.
Right there. Just the youth programs for this in the South at that time. It just wasn't for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And I love the game.
It got serious.
It got
right?
too serious.
Or
for
it
me.
is serious.
It is. And if you're worried about making a mistake because you got a sub on the bench, and they're like educating you like that, like, hey, if you're not doing this well, then you're not going to have fun because you're going to be worried. And that just wasn't for me because I just want to have fun.
Yeah.
You know, and coming back to that sport later in life, as an adult who knows what I want and making it fun. I mean, I love it. It's such an incredible pastime.
So you play with like one of the clubs around here?
I play, every Sunday we have a league play, and then there's pickup. I'm going to squeeze it in today.
Nice.
Because I haven't been able to do it a lot.
Okay.
This community is really cool for that. But anyway, through high school, got away from that, started smoking and drinking and chasing and doing all that stuff with the homies. And then when I graduated, I didn't want to go to college. I didn't really know what I would go for, so I kind of took some time off, much to my dad was not pleased with this. Worked jobs like full time, that thing. And then my mom did some research and found out I could go to music school in state. I never considered it. I couldn't read at the time. I didn't know much about theory at the time.
Okay.
I just knew I had some bass chops for metal chops especially. So I went.
And it was just all ear. Like if you were playing with your buddies and stuff, you could just kind of make it work, find that route or something close to it.
You would sit in your room, after high school, and that's the irony of music now being such a social thing that I do, and having done it like that back as a kid because of how introverted I was.
Yeah.
And I'd finish, and I don't want to be at school. I'd finish, and I'd go home, and I'd stay in my room for hours just playing with either the album or the CD at the time that I had. And YouTube wasn't there yet, so I couldn't watch stuff. So I remember sitting there and like listening to like Victor Wooten and trying to be like, how physically is that happening? And trying to like figure that out for hours, and just like that was what I did.
Yeah.
And then Western Carolina, I went and I tried out and somehow made it into the program. I guess you wouldn't anymore. I found I hear like you have to be able to read music on some level, I guess, to get in.
Okay.
Well, I couldn't at the time, and they let me in, and that changed my life, man. That's when I blossomed. I started playing upright bass, theory, learned how to read, and
when it sounds like you were already starting to kind of break away from just like a single genre, like if you're listening to Vic Wooten.
Yeah, I was towards the end there. I was a Chili Peppers fan too, obviously. Flea as a young bass player.
Sure.
But I mean, that opened my world to the jazz idiom and classical, and from there just everything else.
Yeah.
And I guess it is important to note though, we were big hip hop listeners back in our high school days.
Yeah.
We loved that too.
Yeah.
So I feel that influence all through my playing as well. I love that pocket bass. That like groove bass line, like the repetition in that kind of music and stuff resonates with me, which is nice. People like that. People like that. If you're gigging as a bass player, they like you to be a pocket.
Yeah.
They don't really want to see chops. Especially if you're subbing or something, because then it's hard for. You got to be the canvas, man. You know what I mean? And that goes, I'm sure, what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that relationship between the drummer and the bassist, kind of holding that line.
Creating a canvas, man. Backing the fronts so that they can sound as as natural as they can and as comfortable as they can and
Right.
be as free and expressive as they can. That's what it's about, and that's what I love to do. And I love to play with drummers that have that in mind too. You know, we're just listening and reacting to what they're doing and
Yep.
allowing them the space to be whoever they are.
Yeah.
Because I gig so much, freelance as can be. Man,
How many gigs do you think you get in a year?
Dude.
Is that a fair question?
how many days are there? 365. How many weeks is that? 50?
Yeah, 52.
52. So let's just say, let's see. I'm curious what four times 52 roughly.
So that's going to be around
Let's say
208.
Yeah, and some gigs, some weeks are 8 gigs, some weeks are 1, some weeks are 10.
Wow.
This week right
That's a
here,
lot.
already played 1. Tomorrow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll be 6 this week.
And we've got AVL Fest going on.
4 of those are AVL Fests.
And so is this kind of a heavy week then for you?
No, I wouldn't say so. No. Tomorrow, 3 of them are condensed. They're all AVL Fest is only 45-minute sets,
Right.
too, which is so tomorrow is kind of like playing 1 gig
Okay.
as far as time goes.
Yeah.
Because we'll be back to back to back, 3 different groups, but I don't mind.
Have you done many festivals before?
I have, yeah, over the
I would
years.
imagine,
yeah.
Is it extra stress?
How do you mean?
I don't know. Like my only experience, I've played like maybe 1 or 2 festivals. I've played 2 at least back in the day. And they were kind of like ground up festivals. They were both pretty new. And I've talked to Jazz, Urias, who you play with quite a bit, and he sings he speaks highly of you and your playing. But he, just talked about how like shared kits sometimes, trying to make that work, which can be really frustrating.
The backline.
Mm-hmm. And so, and I guess maybe that is more of a drummer perspective, is just like, so oftentimes people want to try to share kits, or the sound engineers like, can't you just play here and do all this? And finally, like what he came to is just like, he plays on a bass, like a 3-piece kit, and that way he can maintain the sound that he wants to play and still be able to set up and break down pretty quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think drum sets are kind of, with backline on a festival like that, they'll do a brig for the bassist. So I'm still using my instruments. You know what I mean? My bass.
Right.
The variations in drum sets for me is more comparable to the variations in upright basses. Like playing someone else's upright can be make or break, really. Because the necks can have different lengths, putting your positions slightly off, and that can be, I would imagine, more similar to that experience that Jazz is talking about.
I see. Well, speaking of like the upright bass too, like that's one of the things I like to explore a little bit in learning about the relationship between the drummer and the bassist when it comes to different genres. But especially for jazz, like what I'd come to learn was that you go with smaller bass drums because before bass, like the upright bass was being mic'd or put through the PA, it was the lowest end on the stage.
Yeah.
And so the bass drum needed to be smaller to make space for that.
Sonically,
but then also the bass was truly, like, I don't know, maybe this isn't fair, and it is definitely a team.
I think I already know
bass
what you're going to
thing,
say, but go ahead.
right, like the bass used to hold that pocket more than the drummer did.
With the guitar, 100%. So there was that chunk of like the old big bands. There was the walk-in bass, a lot of that stuff, you can't even hear notes coming from the bass.
It's a feel, right?
It's just a sound along with the chunk from the guitar. And you're absolutely right. That was the pocket, when the drums in that context were far more colorful.
Right.
And you listen to those guys doing hits with the horns and like,
right.
it's a different kind of feel. But jazz is funny, man. There's that word. What is that? Such a blanket term for so many.
And it's a loaded term for a lot of, you say jazz and people are like, no.
I don't even know how to like talk about it anymore.
And that's what I love about it too. Like, it's just ever changing.
Totally, man.
And I get a little woo about it sometimes too, but I can't remember who it was, but like one of these jazz players that was just like, it was probably like Wynton Marsalis or someone who's just like, the definition of jazz is I dare you, and I was like, I like that.
I dig that.
Yeah,
I dig it.
Like, you got to push it.
It feels like, yeah, pushing your expression is what it feels like to me.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I love the conversational nature of it. Like that's some of the funnest gigs I play, and that's that's also kind of a broad statement, but there's something about that pure expression of like conversation when you're playing with a jazz crew, a trio I like a lot.
Yeah, and you do that
Piano
every
trio
Saturday.
I love.
You're
Yeah,
just
we do. We have that Foundry gig. But I love that experience, just like looking like eye contact with the drummer when you guys are doing something like fucking around on some groove, and
yeah,
just the reaction that you have, and you're just cheesing the whole time.
yeah.
It's also some of the most physical music I play. Like I'm sweating at the end of.
I'm
like,
sure.
a
I mean,
fun set.
you're outstretched.
Yeah, playing
because
upright
you're playing
bass.
upright.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you also play electric for those gigs sometimes, or just purely
that
upright?
specifically the Foundry?
Mm-hmm.
No, I haven't yet. I almost did one time. Funny story. Coming back from Charleston from a little mini tour, and we made a 4-hour drive, a 7 drive because of traffic. And I only had an electric bass with me, and we were going to that gig, and I was like, I don't know if I have time to go get that upright. So I almost did, but then we got back, and I was like, I'm doing it. I'll be there 10 minutes before. I want the upright.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right
because it's so much. I love it. Is such a different instrument. It's so much more my voice. I feel like it's easier to be uniquely expressive than I feel like on electric bass for me specifically.
Okay.
I feel like I just keep sounding like the people that I listen to on electric bass growing up, or just the sounds I take in. But I don't know. That could be in my head. I don't know.
I mean, it would make sense, and this is purely just conjecture because I love the bass, and I've been trying to learn. I haven't picked it up in a little while, but I just got one on loan from a buddy.
Is that Music Man?
It is.
Yeah, those are dope.
Yeah, it's great, and what I didn't realize until I started picking it up was the attention to tone, and it looks simple, right? Like so many people that play bass are playing bass because there were too many guitarists in the band, or those kinds of things,
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
And so then what you find is that essentially, like they don't have that bass perspective,
Yeah.
necessarily. But I mean, obviously they can adapt, and if they're interested, they can go anywhere they want with it. But
Yeah.
at the same time, what I didn't realize, like when you're a whole note on a drum, it's totally different than a whole note on the bass, right?
Sure.
And a whole note on the drum is really probably not fair in a lot of ways because there's no sustain generally, unless you're talking about the cymbals,
The
right?
cymbals, right?
But with the bass, it's like you're hanging on until the transition, and you're really like paying attention to where your finger is exactly in a way. So I would imagine that take the frets away, your interpretation of that note gets to be a lot more raw and intuitive and personal than the next bassist. Is that fair?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Because it's relying totally on my pressure, my finger, my vibrato. Whatever slides. I like to do slightly, instead of vibratoing back and forth, like kind of like you're taught like the classical vibe. I like to kind of pull the strings side to side,
Okay.
which gives a cool
Yep.
wow round sound kind of thing, which is super super fun.
Nice.
Especially during like a solo on like the low end of the instrument when it's quiet enough to hear the nuances of the upright bass, because it has so many, depending on how you're playing it, what if you're using a bow, like it's a really cool instrument.
And do you find that the audience, like once you go to solo, like I always feel like when the bass goes in for a solo like that, it's almost like when someone starts whispering and then everybody like
They love it.
leans in, and they're like, what's happening? What is he trying to say?
Well, there's the old joke, right? The bass solo, okay, time to talk kind of thing. But in my experience is they love it, man.
Yeah.
I get such positive reactions to solos that I take.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that I don't give a fuck. That I'm just like most of the time practicing ideas and concepts and just pushing to see what I can do and what I can get out of it, or where I can take an idea that I may have thought of before. But it's also reactionary, solos. You're reacting to what you just did a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. And if you accidentally do something that you like and then you like hit it and it feels good and then you make a motif out of it, you go somewhere you might not have gone before. And then you'll have licks, for lack of a better term, that you find yourself doing a lot, and maybe you do it differently one day and it sounds differently. Man, I'll tell you something. Talking about drums, going back to that as a bassist who loves to solo just like everybody else does. Let's just say jazz. We provide that walking bass line.
Yeah.
What a cool foundation that is for a soloist. It's quarter notes, so that rhythm is going to stay. You're going to get that same rhythmic concept, that chug of the quarter notes. If we're doing it politely, we're outlining the scale really well. We're hitting the ones or the fives or sometimes maybe the threes or sevens on the one, but they can hear the tonality moving. And that structure allows not only melodic improvisation on their end, but rhythmic improvisation on their end because they have that palette behind them. Something that is make or break for me as a bass player is when you guys are like, oh, you want to solo? And I'm like, yeah, totally, man. And you change that concept for the bass solo and start doing first of all, if you don't come down as a drummer, you're not going to hear the nuances. That's going to be sonically crowding me.
And you're talking about coming down volume-wise,
and really just bringing it to that concept of the walking bass line.
Yeah.
Just making it so that I have that same palette to be just as expressive as you guys were able to be because I was giving you that foundation. You're no longer soloing.
Right.
So you can come down to this place. And it's make or break, man. And I play with some incredible drummers that I love who are so aware of that and provide me this palette where I can be as expressive as I can be. And then I'll play with incredible musicians that just can't wrap their mind around that and just crowd the shit out of me. And I find myself stifled and unfulfilled and just like I was talking over you. We're talking at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm just like I'm not as loud as you are. And so I get shuffled underneath. But
is there any coming back from that in a performance? Like, is there a way that like a communication can happen on stage?
If I feel like that's happening?
Yeah, if it's happening, like whether it's nonverbal or if it's like a talk or like any way that you've found like where maybe a drummer's like just kind of stepping on their toes and not honoring that kind of code. Like,
sure.
Like, that's kind of what I'm curious
Well,
about.
first of all, there's many facets to that, to answering that question. First of all, is it someone that I know? Is it someone I'm going to play with again? And then have I spoken to them? I'll take a read on their personality. Are they willing? Do they want constructive criticism?
Yeah.
Are they open to it? If I feel like they're not, or I don't really know them, or it's like I'm never going to see them again. No, at this point, and maybe this is the non-educator in me. At this point, I just don't. It's okay, man. You do you. It's all good.
Right.
But if it's someone who I know that I'll be playing with or that I know is open, especially younger kids, we host a jazz jam on Thursdays at Leaf Global downtown.
Okay, yeah.
And man, the college kids have been coming out, and these young drummers come, and they love playing with me. And they're like, "Hey, I know it's a jam, and you're gonna get down, but can I play one with you?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." And like trading with them, and like watch it, like looking around, and they're just looking at me the whole time, cheesing because yeah, man, I gotta kind of know what I'm doing on it a little bit. So them, of course, I'll be like, hey, like dig that, leave room. You know what I mean? Like, hey, man, that flute is quiet. Gotta come back. We gotta come down as rhythm section, or he's just gonna be smothered.
Right.
Same concept. I have definitely passive aggressive before, like on a gig where I'll just stop playing and look at the person.
Sure.
During the just look at them and be like, yeah,
right.
You're solo. Okay, what you got? And sometimes they don't get it at all, and sometimes they're like, ow.
Yeah.
And then you just start again.
And that is so funny because, you like passive aggression is something that we've all practiced, we've all dabbled with for sure. I know. And it's like become a pet peeve of mine, and probably only because I've like probably displayed a good bit of that myself in the past.
Yeah.
And it's also the kind of thing like, how do you avoid that if you're on stage with somebody in real time? Because the last thing you want to do is start berating someone on stage. Like you got to have each other's back, right? Like but at the same time, how do you display that other than with like a look?
Yeah, like a smile,
right?
Eyebrow raise,
right? Yeah,
we have some jokes.
It's like the mom in church kind of language, Yeah.
We had a sub sit in on this gig recently. It's like last minute guitar player, didn't know a single song. And we all knew that, we didn't care. It was the kind of gig where it didn't matter. But I'm talking to him before and he goes, "Is there like a look or something you want to give me if like, if I'm messing up or if I need to stop?" We just had this joke going. It's like, "Yeah, bro, if I do this, you need to stop playing immediately." Right. Just wide eye, step back. We were cracking up.
They were inviting it. I love that.
Yeah.
Is that someone you play with regularly?
No. That was a one-off. It was hilarious. Hey man, if you want to get the gigs, if you want to keep the gigs, if you want to get the callbacks, don't be a dick. Yeah, like you gotta be chill. You gotta, don't step on people's toes. Get to know them, especially if you're a sub. It's not your space. Especially if you're a backer. If it's not your project. You're bringing it to life, you know what I mean? Like knowing when people want creative criticism too, or if they don't at all. And I know both.
Yeah.
That welcome, and a lot of people will welcome my bass lines, but even then I'll play something that I'm digging and they'll be like, "Hey man, can you do this different feel?" And in certain settings, it's like, "Of course, man.
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring your project to life."
Yeah.
So as specific as you can be with me. And that's what I love about like the musical theater world or, the classical world, which there is something so powerful about 5, 10, 20, 30 musicians playing the same thing and cutting that note at the same time because that's what's written down in front of us, like holding it until exactly that, and like just using dynamics and articulation in a way where everyone is playing that exactly together. That it's heavy, man. It's powerful.
And are you engaged with that these days?
Man, I wish I was more. Out of college, I did more of it, but it's a bummer, dude. Here's what ended up happening. First of all, it's a tough world to get into. Auditioning is, like many people know, not fun, and you can be playing that concerto like no one's business at your house, and then you stand there in a cold room in front of judges, not warmed up. And then it sounds brutal and you're stressing and all that stuff. That being said, I've played with a couple regional symphonies over the years, but as a gigger, the other stuff took over, and it's unfortunate that world can't really at the level I was playing. It's not lucrative, and if like I got to give them 4 rehearsals and then 1 or 2 shows in 1 week, and they're talking about like back in the day like $175 for the whole thing, and then I get a Friday night gig that offers me $200, and that's the night of the last rehearsal, and I can do it. Like I can literally do it. Like I can miss that rehearsal and still hit the gig. Like that's what I do. In fact, I kind of love that. But that's not cool for them. So then you're like, "Hey guys, Friday night's paying me more than this whole thing. I got to do it." And over the years, it's just like, okay, well, you're going to move further and further down the call list if you can't make the whole shebang.
Yeah.
So it's less now. I do some regional theater stuff a couple times a year. There's a couple regional theaters that do like a show or 2 a year, and they on their first call. And if I can fit it, all day. I love that stuff. It's so fun to get down there and play a show.
I was just thinking about the number of genres that you play in and have played throughout time. Like, and I've always appreciated, well, not always. I was definitely like one of those, not a gatekeeper, but like a single genre kind of person, similar to you, but it's probably more like metal, punk, hip hop kind of a perspective.
That's where I started, man.
Right. And then jazz came in pretty quick. But I mean, you play jazz, you play soul, funk, you play orchestral or symphonic, or have experience with that. You play in a newgrass band, and I imagine have you done straight up bluegrass as well?
Oh, you bet it, brother.
Yeah. So, and the thing that strikes me among all those things is like the relationship between like maybe orchestral, symphonic, and or like bluegrass. Like those are very specific languages. I imagine your role is like laid out more in those areas.
Yeah, well, in a symphonic setting, it's literally written down.
Right.
You know what I mean? So there's very little. Now, that's not to say you can't be expressive, and it's all
But
about like using those moments where it says, expressive or like appassionato, like all these like, and you just like vibrato the shit out of that thing for this section, and like, you can be expressive through it. But and then bluegrass, yeah, like especially trad bluegrass, I've had some laughs because I love it. I really love it, and I especially like the vocal harmonies that come from that. And I mean it's.
And the rhythm,
Dude, I mean,
is so, and usually like you can tell a good one, like they're tight.
Man.
Everyone is on point.
Totally.
And that's kind of like coming to my point, like about those genres, like being very specific, kind of, your role a lot of times. And like you're saying, like there is some wiggle room, I'm sure. But I'm just kind of wondering what the difference is in communication, kind of bringing that back in between bandmates or other players, like, because like when it's written down, that's it right there. There's no question. And you have a conductor, I'm sure, and you've got your section as well. And so everyone has to like have that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And most of you have gone to school, if not like, you could be an autodidact and still kind of probably make your way in the symphonic world, I'm sure, as long as you still know that language and how to talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like in so many ways, like kind of the more what I would consider maybe more free art or not written down, it seems like, would you say there's more conflict that arises in those areas? Like if the drummer and the bassist aren't communicating, more of that passive aggression comes out. It's harder to pinpoint what's right or wrong.
No, I wouldn't say. I think they have their own things. And there are people that might listen to this that disagree with what I'm about to say, but I'm just going to talk from my experience.
Absolutely.
And this is also important. I've not played with the London Symphony Orchestra. You know what I mean? These are regional symphonies that I'm playing with. There's not a lot of listening going on from the other musicians around you. There is some of them in particular, there can be some pretty big intonation issues that are noticeable if you're listening. And it can be extremely frustrating. And a lot of times in that context, there's really nothing you can do about it. I have a lot of great friends that are only involved on that side, the classical side, and by that I mean like orchestral, following a conductor playing. And they'll tell you all day, like, I don't know that improvisation thing you're doing. I have a hard time playing if there's not music in front of me. I had this old upright bass player, principal bassist, telling me one time, brother, I can't tune unless you put the music in front of me, like joking kind of, right? But yeah, it's a different world. It's a different brain. Like the way that they process and emote and express music. And because of that, in my experience, like I said, it can be frustrating because that a lot of these cats are just playing what's in front of them, well, just like they did at home when they rehearsed it, and like, they're not listening. But of course there are exceptions to this, and I know incredible musicians with incredible ears that play in symphonies, and I've been educated and humbled and all of that. Unlike the other side where, more often, because the music comes from listening, no one's reading charts in any bluegrass gig I've ever played. So it comes from jamming. It comes from sitting around, drinking, having fun. I mean, folk music, it comes from Irish and Scottish folk music coming over here in these little hollers and just like having these old tunes and building them into these new tunes. So there is more active listening for the most part.
Yeah.
And there's conflict anywhere, man.
Right.
It just depends. And it's, for me, music nowadays, I don't really care. I don't care what the genre is. Genre be damned. I want to play with musicians who are loving it, who are listening, and who are fun. Yeah. You could be the most badass pianist in the world. If you're a dick, I don't care. I don't want to play with you. Right. That's not why I'm doing this. You know what I mean? So, and it doesn't, we could be covering anything, man. We were covering Fireworks, Katy Perry one time with a band I did, and we covered the shit out of it. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't it doesn't matter like what the genre is. I realize music is music creates an emotional reaction, with anyone. Some people don't like the reaction certain genres create in them. People have such a hard time with metal.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of anxiety inducing. You know what I mean?
For
It's
sure.
kind of uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and it can bring out anger.
Yeah.
People don't like that. So they end up hating on it, talking shit.
Yeah.
If you just embrace the reaction, you live the experience,
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was a long-winded kind of answer to what
We
you're...
like those,
Yeah.
kind of gives a little window. And
I don't
also,
even remember the question.
yeah. You're not the first one. I think it was, we're just kind of curious about the communication between folks and how it goes in the different genres. But I think that that's all there because, it is an emotional response. It's that give and take and it's that feedback, And so that's one of the things that I've been exploring a lot more is feedback in general from folks and how we give and get it. And musically it happens so naturally in a lot of ways when you're listening. Either someone's following you or they're maybe in there, and they could go right along with you next to you, or they could be listening and they're like kind of covering the other flank maybe or something like that. Right.
Absolutely.
And so, but it all still comes down to that kind of, being in tune with each other. So it's like art is communication.
Yeah, man.
It could be a message, it could be an idea, it could be whatever it is, that feeling, it could be anxiety or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's meant to, kind of provoke something.
Yeah.
And sometimes to like calm you down too, depending on where you're at,
Totally,
what you
dude.
need.
Totally, man.
And so where I also find it interesting is like how that communication, when it's not right, and someone's not listening, kind of coming back a little bit. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but just how people can communicate with each other and hear each other. Because what fascinates me is when people aren't open to feedback.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's kind of contra to the whole idea.
Yeah, man.
And so that's one thing that I'm like trying to explore and understand. It's just how inevitably I've talked to a lot of drummers at this point, and I have been the drummer that just kind of barrels through. Usually early on, you just barrel through. You're trying to understand, you're beating the shit out of the skins, you're forcing a tone out of whatever, you're imagining something else in your head, but you're not present.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was that Metallica show you just saw, or maybe it was something else. And you're not listening. And so then, but you feel like it's going so well, so that when you finally open your eyes and you look around to your bandmates and they're like really confused, frustrated, angry, like putting down their bass and walking away, whatever it is, it's like, and then you're like, or they just try to say, hey, just even constructive criticism, how that can land for some people is like such an assault on their whole being, and about how this is my art, this is what I'm creating. You can't tell me what to do. I'm the drummer here.
Yeah, right.
and it fascinates me, and I love talking to folks that have had some of that formal training too, because the idea is, from what I understand, what I think is that you subject yourself to criticism, like going through any kind of institutional thing, right? Like that is a part of the performance, is sitting there and listening to feedback from your classmates, your teacher, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas not everyone necessarily gets that when they're doing the like kind of the gigs and everything, and they're doing music that's not so regimented or not written down.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's interesting to me, for sure, how music, I think, at one of its best, can really separate your ego from what's going on,
Yeah. Definitely, man. I think if you're lucky enough to have a mentor that's willing to tell you the hard shit, what you need to hear. Well, I mean, going back to what you said, you're either open to it or you're not. And it fascinates me too. Why you would think you know everything, or why you would think you can improve. Because that's, in theory, never the case, I guess, unless you stifle yourself.
Right.
So I can't really relate to that mentality. I feel like the more I play, the more I'm like open to learning, and the
Yeah.
more I feel like I don't, the more there is to know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all it is right there. It's just growth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just like conversational
Yeah.
learning.
Can you think
cues.
of anything specifically that you learned recently, or?
Um, well, I can think of something. I don't want to say tactile, but with one ensemble. I mean, I've always been a singer. I sang through college in the chorus. I sang in church growing up. Um, but I've never really done lead stuff
Mm-hmm.
until recently. And you've seen it.
Yeah. Y'all are playing.
Bro, so fun.
Yeah.
And I've quickly improved
Uh-huh.
finding my voice in that way rather than being a backup harmony, which is something I've done for years.
Right.
So that's something that I've literally learned how to do lately because I play in that band with incredible singers.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I highly respect their opinion, and at first was nervous to even sing in front of them. You know what I mean?
Is that right? How long? So we're talking right now about the Monday night gig
Yeah.
at 5 Walnut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been kind of in the orbit of that.
Yeah.
Of that band, because I've interviewed Caromia and Jazz, and then Ram and I are in talks. I'm trying to figure out a conversation too. So yeah. And I'll tell you too. Like that was a part of my kind of me delving back into the music world and just going to these gigs and studying folks. And it started with like going to 5 Walnut and some of the jazz stuff that goes on at One World Brewing West.
Yeah, man.
And then I caught a hold, or one of the other drummers at Little Jumbo told me to go check out Caromia's outfit. Whatever's going on.
The Tuesday night thing that they
No,
do. Oh,
but your thing.
Yeah.
On Mondays at 5 Walnut.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's just Caromia, like that's how it was introduced to me at that point, but maybe it's not just Caromia centric, but that's where I was told, definitely go check out whatever's going on there on Monday.
Oh, good.
And I've been loving it because again, just watching y'all, you can tell everyone's listening, everyone's in tune, everyone's paying attention.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is the song? At least there's one song, there's a cover that you sing, and then do you sing anything else like that? Is it that Bad, Not Good?
Yeah. Man, that song is so cool.
Yeah.
It's such a heavy song.
Yeah.
I love singing that.
Yeah, it's great.
Mm-hmm. And then
I love it when y'all play it.
Yeah.
It.
Cool. It's nice to hear, man. I do it very white suited too, which is funny. And then I need to add more, and I'm trying to because I have several compositions, but not in any sort of lyrical vocabulary. I mean, not in the sense that there's actually like written words, English or whatever, poetry to my melodies.
Okay.
I've written a lot more for what I guess you could say the jazz side of things. Lead sheets and charts and concepts like that. I've been trying to write like they write, like for the first time, really, just trying to like think about a melody in a way where I'm putting my words to it.
Nice.
It's been challenging for sure. But it's new. And it's forcing me to think in different ways, I'll write a concept and I'll send it to Caromia, and she'll be like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, hell yeah, I hear where you're going." Keep doing that part or something, or just repetition, or I love it, but she's honest.
And
which I love.
Is she giving you feedback on the lyrics or the melodies or both? Or
I think all just the vibe, the overall vibe. Because lyrics are funny, man. For me, trying to write them, obviously they're personal because they're coming from me. So, and initially I was having trouble with the expression of just like, do I want to talk about that? And then I finally committed to a concept and wrote a song. And I sent it to Caromia, and her interpretation of lyrics were totally freaking different because she's her own person. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so the lyrical value is whatever the listener takes from it. You know what I mean? Because they make it personal about them too.
Yeah.
And they relate it to their experiences, which is freaking cool and lifted a weight off my shoulders in a way. Like you can write, just write. Just write.
Yeah.
Different ways of doing it. I need to jump back on it. I was doing that more at the beginning of the year when the gigs weren't as swinging again. But damn, bro, it is pre-COVID over here.
Yeah.
We are gigging so much, and I'm finding my downtime. I'm doing less with music in my downtime now, just because it is such a huge part of my life.
Yeah.
And I'm a climber, rock climber,
Yeah.
soccer player, and hiker, backpacker.
Yeah.
Love cooking.
Nice.
All the, everything life has to offer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Try to do that.
Nice.
Yeah, relationships and
Absolutely.
being a human.
Yeah. And so much of that I think is so key too, to like have something to tap into musically.
Yeah.
Is to have those things going on, and it serves the music ultimately.
I think it does. But it's funny, this experience that I'm having with you right now, all this talking, makes me want to practice, makes me want to shed.
Nice.
Like, just makes me want to like set up a time and make sure I'm still doing this, because it's such a huge part of my life.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we take things for granted, I guess.
Yeah.
And talking and being like playing a gig and being like, okay, that was fun. Where are we? You want to get a drink with the drummer? Like, what's up? And someone come up to me and be like, dude, you're the best upright bass player I've ever seen. And being like, whoa, homie, let me send you some YouTube videos. And also, like, what a fucking compliment.
Yeah.
Like, I was just fucking around, like, maybe hungover or whatever, or heartbroken or whatever, just expressing at this point in my life, not even thinking about it like that.
Yeah.
Like I'm affecting someone on that level.
Yeah.
So it's heavy, man. It's a heavy responsibility. I mean, we bring the party, we are vacation, quote, air quotes around that for people, and like we connect with people on all different walks of life, whether it's the dive bar or rolling into the country club and connecting with those people. I remember one time going to play at this country club down in the mountains, southern mountains here in Cashiers Valley, wearing something similar to what I'm wearing, which is a cutoff t-shirt, because it was summer and I was driving down there.
Sure.
Soccer shorts, I think, and just pulled in to the space, got through the gate, pulled up to the back of the like little venue restaurant we're playing at, and I got out of my car, and there's these two ladies in the white, what are they playing? Polo?
Or
what is it?
Croquet.
Croquet, thank you. Mm-hmm. It's two ladies standing there, and they look at me, and their eyes wide and like, what is that guy? Oh, whoa. I open my door, I take out the upright bass. And they're like, oh,
it makes sense.
It all makes sense now.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that, man.
Yeah.
Like, I was in because of music.
Right.
When otherwise they were going to call the cops.
Right.
It's funny, dude.
That is funny.
It is funny, man. So anyway, going back to my point, like, yeah, man, it's a powerful and important human thing, human expression that I don't want to take for granted,
Absolutely. There's that freedom, and a pass, kind of a hall pass too, I guess. I just think it just struck this in my mind, and I'm probably getting off on tangents, but I was just thinking about artists and the way, like the garb and how they present themselves and what they wear and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I talk about this band a lot, but I'm going to talk about something separate. So Hiatus Coyote, y'all cover.
Dude, I remember the first time I heard them. Incredible, dude.
I was blown away.
Incredible. Anyway, go on.
Yes, she's like, right now, she's my hero.
Oh, incredible, dude.
You think, and I mean, I love everyone in that band, and I've talked a lot about Perrin Moss, the drummer, but I haven't talked about Napalm as much. And so she, for one, I mean, just her chops and her skills vocally and on guitar and lyrically are incredible, but she wears her art too, and I was having a conversation with a friend. I was introducing them to some music that I was listening to. So I put up a YouTube of Hiatus Coyote, and he was just like, what's going on? Why is she wearing all that stuff? I was like, it's art, man. But so a discussion came up about why are they trying to draw so much attention to themselves? And I was like, that's not always the case. Like it's art, so it's evoking some emotion, maybe, and maybe that's some part of it too. But it's also, when I see Naomi, she embodies this idea of like a free self. Like she's defined herself as separate from her ego. And case in point, like she had breast cancer maybe a year or two ago.
Yep.
And so her body changed.
Yes.
And for myself, if I was in her shoes, I'd probably get some reconstructive surgery done to make myself symmetrical again. But she had a mastectomy. That was not her choice, and she's a very naturalistic perspective kind of a person, but her demeanor has not changed. like I don't see a change in her. If anything, it's just expanded more as far as like her power is concerned. And so when I started, and so when I started to think about like, you know, things I'm doing and how I'm coming off and get a little self-conscious or whatever it is, like she's who I think of is like just being herself.
Yeah.
And she does that musically. She does that in her wardrobe. She, you know, and in her interviews and all this kind of stuff. Like, so she's just become kind of this, not to put her up on a pedestal, but she's representing something for me. I don't know her personally or how she views it or anything, but that she's who I think of now when I'm thinking of like, I need some separation from my ego. I need some strength for myself, and I need to separate from what's going on.
I get it.
And she is that person that's like, she's not just her body, right? Like she's all those things, but she's also wrapped around. So I just love that band.
I love that band.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get everything you just said.
Yeah.
And I understand why you feel that way.
Yeah.
For dressing, music, expression, physically, I mean, there's certain bands that have a certain concept that I'll try to flow with. If they want, obviously the symphonic thing, they're still doing tuxedos, which is nuts to me. It's incredibly difficult to play in.
Mm-hmm. Especially as the bassist.
Oh my gosh. Well, a lot of times you can get the jacket cut on the right arm. Where they cut out a piece of fabric here and literally put like a little stretchy piece of black fabric, so you're not like scrunching that shoulder pad up when you lift that arm up to play, which is cool. I don't play that much like that, so I don't have that to my jacket. But like I told you earlier, I came up, Kiss was one of the first bands. Right. I mean, they have alter egos on stage, you know what I mean? Like full makeup. And then any of the hair metal stuff and like, you know, the feminism around masculinity that they were doing, you know, the hair and the makeup and the tight pants and stuff.
Right.
That's how I originally saw it.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, I play with certain people that want me to think about it more, what I look like in front of people. Cause I'll be honest with you. I don't really care.
You don't?
I don't care.
Yeah.
If I could be barefooted every gig, I would be.
Okay.
Because I feel like I'm most grounded that way. I play the best. I just want to play comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? So that's how I'll dress specifically. But yeah, it's a funny thing. It's an interesting thing that your friends expressed that. Like, they focused on that to the point where they're like, why? What's with her outfit?
Right.
I mean, dude, she's a performer.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's what you're looking at and listening to. She's art. She is expressing art.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm surprised that's surprising, and it's a strange view to me.
Yeah, I hear you. I've been thinking about this a little bit too, and one of the other ideas, you find folks who get frustrated by art.
Sure.
And this may be a deeper political viewpoint, but it's not off bounds from what I find is helpful and interesting, because this is all mindset, this is all perspective, and essentially we're talking about art. And when we talk about art, there are folks that just don't get along with it, and everyone has their opinions. And for, you know, there's this perspective that the opposite of art is fundamentalism. And because so there's this position, I guess it's a philosophical position, but it's essentially like art is this perspective and an expression of hope for the future and how you can affect now for the future. And fundamentalism is glomming on to something that happened in the past. Fundamentalism, the whole idea is that your race, creed, religion, whatever it is, has had a better day in the past, and we just need to get back to that. And so art suggests that things are better and can be better, whereas fundamentalism is a race back.
I feel that. That is cool. That's an excellent perspective.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And I think, too, to offer up a little grace for the folks that have that perspective, I've had fundamental perspective before, and I think that we all have.
Absolutely.
Look at the pandemic.
Yeah.
Like where everyone's going back, everyone's trying to learn how to grow kitchen gardens, everyone's trying to like do more for themselves.
Yeah.
And get back to this perspective. And we have the closest thing that we've ever had to this recreation of before times.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we've all delved into that before. We've all had some failures because it doesn't have to just be based on all those other dimensions of identity, but it can just be like in the moment, like when you feel attacked and you go back inward to that fundamentalist perspective.
Yeah, bro.
How do I get back to where I was?
Yeah, bro.
The image I immediately had was this perspective of a squirrel running across the street, and it would make it, except for it turns back under your car tire, right?
I know.
Poor guy.
Poor little guy.
But the squirrel is only working to go back to the place it was last safe. To that tree that it just left on the first side of the street, right? And so it's just that perfect example of like you could almost make it. You're almost on the other side, but you got so scared that you're driven back by instinct. Sorry,
yeah,
I know it's a downer.
Yeah, I could go. I could go into all that too, man. Into like that's a whole nother thing.
Yep.
Veganism.
Oh, okay.
Save that for another podcast.
Yeah. We could.
Practice of mine for years.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Well,
no.
The squirrel doesn't have
the squirrel
die.
The squirrel
in this scenario.
That's important.
Right.
I think.
Right.
The squirrel didn't make it. In
Yeah.
Actuality, it's part of life.
Yeah. It is. And so, and I think that we've all been there. And so sometimes I think that maybe this is a connection too. Maybe that drummer or that other musician that you're playing with is like so worked up and trying so hard, and then whatever has hit them at that moment in time, like they get some criticism and they just feel demolished, and they just won't hear it. Maybe they found that fundamental perspective again in that moment or something.
That's a great perspective of it.
I don't know.
I get it.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah. It's all there in music, man. In my opinion, like,
I know, man.
But that's what and it's always such an honor to see y'all play. And I can't believe I've tried to get out to see y'all more. You're playing 4 times, and obviously this podcast is going to come out after the festival, but you're playing 4 times with different acts. And are these regular gigs that are the regular positions you have in these bands?
Yeah, totally. Some more than others. The Mondays crew I'm playing with, Brushfire Stankgrass.
Oh yeah,
been with them for 10 years now.
Yeah,
10 years plus.
How long has that band been going on? Are you like an original member?
No, they started before I moved here. I think in the 2000 single digits somewhere. Okay. But 2013 I guess I got.
Y'all cover so much in that band, dude. Sonically.
Wow, what a ride that's been. What a repertoire we have now.
Yeah.
That long, you know what I mean? We have we can do the wedding band thing, which is cool. And then we have all the originals those cats have written, and how much we've all changed as musicians over the past 10 years and our views. And
who plays drums in that band?
Micah does. Micah Thomas, my homie,
and my
bro from another mo.
Right on. Mm-hmm. And when did y'all find each other in that band?
No, he got me. I think he's the reason I got involved.
Okay.
Yeah, I met him. Jason Cristofaro put together a project with Sean Smith, who I love. He lives in New York City now. He's been gone for years. We put together a jazz project called Liberated State, where we just did the most fucked up shit we could think of, way above my head at the time, I remember. And Jason set it up, and I met Micah at Jason's rehearsal space one day.
Okay.
He just somehow he knew him, he got him involved, and then it's all been downhill since then. No, just kidding. No, he's one of I love that dude. Me and him are rhythms. I know what he's doing before he does it, and vice versa. And with just the grooves the pocket that I sink into him is rare. Mm-hmm. Jazz is like that too. Now we've been playing that Monday thing for 8 months now.
Okay.
So now I find myself connecting with him before it even happens, kind of thing too.
Yeah,
which is special, and I love that. And I know he's doing the same thing because he's listening.
Yeah.
I like making both of them laugh, and they make me laugh too with little things.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then Sanctum Sully is another band I'm playing with. They play less, a few times a year. love those guys. Love all of them. They're dads, so they got stuff going on, but
Right.
they love to play, and we love to get together, and it's great fun. And then I was going to be playing with the Resonant Rogues,
Okay.
who is a band that I've played with off and on for years now. We toured Europe. I toured the UK with them in Australia years ago, and the Southeast and Northeast, and they're great friends of mine. But that gig got moved to a time slot when that wedding is, so I can't do it.
Gotcha.
And then Red Clay Revival.
Yep.
We're playing on Sunday.
Okay.
At the Orange Peel.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to even say venue names and stuff on this one. Does that matter?
Venues?
Yeah, I said Orange Peel. Does
That's fine.
Oh, yeah, we've already said that.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
I
don't know
talk
my
about those a
etiquette.
lot, and I don't know what the limit would be other than me trying to like hold on to some idea that I can sell more, whatever.
Yeah,
like,
you gonna
that's
make
not,
money off of that?
Yeah, that's not what this is about.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, eventually it will be.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
open
I
to
mean,
sponsorship,
dude,
but
you
like,
got it. You got it.
yeah, something's got to support the project eventually. But yeah,
I would love to see you get there.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man, this is awesome.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm so glad you came over
Yeah,
to share. I mean, I feel like we've covered so much and
Yeah.
got deep.
yeah. Very little about my relationship with the drum.
I know. And
No,
maybe-
we've talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, and maybe to that end too. Like, is there anything that you would want to share? Maybe it's with you had mentioned doing the Thursday night Leaf gigs or the Leaf
The
jams,
jams, yeah, baby.
and you get to, or maybe we talked about this before we started recording, but you've taken on some drummers, some young drummers and stuff like that. Like, what would you want to communicate right now to all the new drummers listening? As far as, and obviously we've talked about listening a good bit in general, but is there anything other like brass tacks kind of stuff that's,
Man, have fun,
yeah,
but listen. Just listen. Let's read the gig, read the room, read
Yeah.
the crowd, read the stage. Have fun, smile, and be positive. And like we talked about earlier, you can get better. You're not the best. Keep being open to that idea.
yeah,
Take the criticism. You'll be, if you gig, you'll meet cats that are jerks about it.
right,
It's okay. That's not you. That's them. It's not
Right.
a reflection of it. That's them projecting.
yeah,
Take it. They might have some really good advice,
Right.
even if they're presenting it in a horrible way. So just be open to that, man. Use dynamics. Listen,
Yeah.
if you can't hear them, they can't hear themselves either. Shit like that.
Right.
And pocket, baby. Yeah, Victor Wooten said you can't hold no groove if you ain't got no pocket.
Tell me about pocket. I mean, I've
Pocket,
talked about
that's-
this a lot, but
that's the
everyone
canvas.
has like a different definition.
For me, that's the canvas. That's you sinking in. Especially, it's even more powerful when it's with a bass player, sinking into a groove, to a pattern, to it might feel repetitious in a lot of ways, but there's something about that train driving. Like I said, that canvas. Think about it as a bigger picture. You're creating the canvas, which is huge for the lines, which are melodies and solos and lyrics and stuff like that. It's important, and you have to find where that's fun in a way. Like I remember being younger and like just wanting chops, man, and
Yeah.
just being like, God, I want to do that, and then trying to do that on gigs and just like, that ain't there. There are gigs like that.
Sure.
But for the most part, man, just find that pocket, dude, and just hold it down, and just you will see people love you. Like they'll light up, and the audience, they don't want. Yeah, the drum solos are awesome. So are
Yeah.
bass solos, but not the whole gig.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like fills are great when
Right.
they're appropriate. But man, you want to make a room dance, pocket.
Yeah.
Give them a pocket and watch
Yeah.
that shit. Watch them light up.
And find the challenge within it. too.
Yeah,
I think so many people
Well said. Yeah.
I think so many people kind of find like, oh, that's just boring. It's like, doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't.
Right. Like it's a meditative practice. It's
Yeah.
a flow practice.
Yeah.
If you can maintain pocket with the same intensity, whether it's
Yeah.
slow or soft or anything, and kind of keep that going,
Yeah.
you'll find that space. You can find that space where it's almost like you start separating a little bit and you can start observing the whole stage.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I talk about it like I'm a pro, but I have experienced
you don't have to be
it.
a pro to,
Right,
to
exactly.
experience this.
Yeah, like
man.
I have experienced it in the bit that I've played in those moments where it's kind of separate from you and you just see it. And that's when so much inspiration comes.
Yeah,
because
man.
then when maybe they do want to give the drummer some.
Maybe they do.
And maybe that's time.
Yeah,
and also some of the, I think to like some of my favorite drummers, like Nate Smith, plus Kim Folk, and his pocket is so big compared to like other folks' pocket. And it's because he's so on it that he can fit in all this other stuff. And I'm not talking about back bill feats or anything where you get really busy, but I'm just saying like the little suggestion that kind of pops up.
Yeah.
You can like just you can plant a seed for maybe where you go next, just here and there, and help kind of that dynamic and to build something.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just a brick here and you get some feedback. No, that brick shouldn't go there. Okay. Yeah, maybe you're right. And then like you find it somewhere else, but like it's that small talk sometimes,
Yeah, I mean, it's conversational.
Right.
Just like this. We're not talking over each other too much, and that's why we can understand each other. That's why we can hear each other.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, there's, like you just said too, there's a place. Like there are places where you should challenge each other, go crazy, fine. Like, yeah. But that pocket.
Yeah. Start with the pocket.
Play with it and have fun.
Yeah.
What a blessing.
Love it.
You're playing music.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Have fun.
That's right.
Be grateful.
There's that, yeah. And when
Be
you
humble.
can tune into that, I can't imagine anything better, really, in those
dude.
moments.
What a gift. What a life it'll lead you to,
Yeah.
The places you'll go, the people you'll see, relationships you'll have, the lovers you'll have. Man, music has shaped this experience. 36 years old now.
Yeah.
It's a trip.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a trip.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and
man.
that's one thing I've noticed too, like, as I've been meeting more musicians and stuff like that, and I go check y'all out a good bit on Monday nights at 5 Walnut, and I go, Monday nights, and then I go maybe to some other places on occasion. I go to Little Jumbo as well, and like once you start talking to musicians, it's just my favorite folks to talk
we're
to.
a cool breed, man.
It's just open.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it.
It's fun, I know.
Love it.
I
Cool,
do.
man.
I do too, man. Joel, thanks, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
What time
Thank
is
you.
it?
Yeah, we're close
good,
in.
right?
I think
Good.
this is a good time.
I don't feel rushed or anything. Like,
And I feel like
we
we've
could keep
laid a
going.
lot out there for sure.
For sure.
But I feel like it's a good time to stop. But I definitely look forward to talking with you more and listening to more of your music.
Same.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice, man. All right. So that was me and Danny Iannucci, just chatting music, philosophy relationships, how to communicate, all that stuff. Good stuff. So I hope you got a lot out of it. I did, and I hope to see you for the next one.